Hello, everyone. It's Jen from No Porn Club, and thank you for joining us today on the No Porn Club radio show. And excited to have, actually, it's going to be my husband tonight. We didn't get to have him on last week, and so actually, I wanted him on the last 2 weeks, but tonight he is going to be on. And the reason I'm excited about having my husband on is because he has been going through recovery of this issue of pornography. He's been dealing with this for quite a few years, and we have been married now for 3.5 years and have been working side by side in the recovery system, 12-step programs, are facilitating and leading groups in that on the phone and also in person. And he has quite a lot of insight into what porn can do to the mind and the spirit and the heart. So mainly what we want to talk about tonight, and I will bring him on, let's see, is specifically around how pornography, watching it for a man, how it affects their perception and their feelings about women. And he has, to me, this is one of the coolest things that I think insights he has, what I've learned from him over the years, of him going from being very, having this desire to cherish and support and, really have amazing relationship with a woman, and having pornography enter his life and losing sight of some of that, and now coming back to himself. So, hey, babe, are you on there? Right.
Well, hey, Jen, it's good to hear your voice again.
He's in the other room, which is kind of funny. We just moved into a new house this weekend, so we are in heaven with a lot of different rooms. Anyway, so hi, Brian.
Hi, babe.
Are you on speaker?
I am. Let me take it out. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of muffled. Thank you. So, all right. So there's a lot we could talk about. You know that.
There is. And how long do we have?
Well, however long we have probably about 40 minutes.
Okay.
So we can just see where we go with this. But I actually, what I really want to start with is I want you to just share. I'd like you to share just some of your story. I would like to focus, and we've talked about focusing on, how porn had changed your perception of women and how you felt about them. But maybe you can just share a little bit about what do you think got you involved in pornography? What led up to it?
Well, okay. Well, I think that's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot of topics within that very question, but I think one of the a little bit about me, I guess. When I remember growing up, I always had this concept of what it, kind of like this. I don't know. I guess I'd call it a fairy tale concept of what a man is, and how a man treats a woman, and it is that chivalrous, protecting of women and taking care of them and defending their virtue and all those things that are kind of fantasized about in storybooks for kids or whatever. But and in reality, I wanted that in my life, to really be just a strong, supporting man who really let women be who they're meant to be. And I found myself doing that naturally as a young man, and into my first years of college. I just really, when I'd see that a woman was struggling, I would my natural instinct or premonition was to just reach out and try and help that woman, whoever it was, whatever she was struggling with, and just be there as a supporting man. And then, but I, at the same time, having that desire and feeling that as a kid and knowing I wanted to be that and I could be that, there was also an inner struggle with me always with a lot of insecurity about my manhood and masculinity and what that meant, and truly was I confused, I think, a lot of masculinity with the movie style macho man, where it's just like, out, everything has to do with physical. You work out hard, you fight people, you're in wars, all that type of man figure that really doesn't translate into the same, true masculinity we're talking about, in regards to women. But, and so I was, I always struggled with my own masculinity and what it really meant to be a man. And I had a lot of insecurities around, some aspects of my social life, some aspects of where I fit in socially, sometimes within the family. And then there was always a lot of people that would comment on, my personality, or they would see this like difference about me, like I stood out, or I was always seemed happy, or I was always had this kind of the spirit that reached out to people and drew people in, that type of thing. And I could never really see that in myself, and I always struggled with that, drawing that connection. So anyway, and then as I got into my older years and started to have, early college and things, providing was something that, financially was something that I struggled with. For some reason, I just could never really grasp deep within how to just be a strong provider for myself and to prepare for a family, which I knew I wanted at some point. And so I struggled in work a lot. I know that in general, men that struggle with work, it deeply affects their self-esteem and self-worth, and I've struggled with that for years. Am I on the path you're wanting? Your question?
Yeah, you're just I want to hear your story, how you feel about that, and where it started. So I think it's perfect what you're talking about.
Well, all right, thank you.
I think it's good. I know. So how do you think that those insecurities that you were dealing with, I think and it's probably really common. I mean, people have a lot of insecurities as they grow up. But how do you think that those insecurities played into, because I know being, you're a Christian, went on a mission, we're really focused on staying, like, having a moral standard and doing that. And I think you went from a place of being pretty strong with that, but I mean, you battled the natural tendencies, right, of physical desires and even masturbation and all those kind of things.
Whoa, did you just say that on the air?
Yes, I did.
The big M word. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good word. I've always hated that word for some reason. I don't know.
Well, you didn't like the word porn either, and now we're the no porn club, so you didn't.
Well, I was raised, my family, my parents were extremely, very religious and very, we were raised in a very Christian, Christ-centered home, and we prayed together as a family. We read, scriptures together, and my parents both taught us, a lot about moral standards and things, and so that was something that was very strong in our home. But I realized too, I can remember back to being a youth, like when I'd see if there was anything slightly sexual on a movie, even like a kissing scene or something, I knew that for some reason I was always drawn towards that. Like that affected me. Like I could feel that physical, as a little kid, like that wow factor. Like what was that? That sexualized whatever that is. And so, and the drugs and alcohol thing never really appealed to me much. Like I didn't really ever have, the only thing I ever did as a kid was I smoked half a cigarette when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I immediately ran in the house and told my dad crying, and he was like, all right, well, I was like, but for some reason the sexual stuff, it was, it had an effect on me. And I had a couple of experiences as a kid where I just thought, wow, this is a powerful, kind of like a drug or whatever. And so, the masturbation part didn't start until I was in about 11th grade, and it came at a time where I was depressed. I really, my mom had contracted cancer when I was about 15, and my dad let us know that one day when we were on a family vacation in San Diego, and it just destroyed the vacation. And it was just, from that point on, it seemed like it was a very odd life was really weird. Like I couldn't understand how my mom, this angelic, just amazing woman who I was very close to, could get cancer, and I know that affected me a lot. And so life just seemed it kind of became out of place in some ways. And I couldn't quite ever grasp that. And then as it progressively got worse, about a year or two later, that's when I started to get involved in masturbation, which really brought my level of self-worth down in the dumps, and I really just did not like myself, and yet there was this draw to it because of the sexual feelings involved, and then afterwards it's always a huge letdown, and I always felt really disappointed. And so, I let my dad know about that. I remember him asking me specifically what led to this, and I said, Dad, I've just been depressed for some reason. If I wasn't so depressed, I don't think I would have gotten involved in this. So anyway, and then I just another point too that I know has contributed to this is I was, for some reason, as a youngster, I had a very strong case of OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, and I was my life in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade was basically, I look back, it was basically run by this obsessive compulsive disorder where sometimes it would take me a half an hour to walk up the stairs because I had to hit every stair right in a certain order. Otherwise, if I got to the top of the stairs, I'd have this really uncomfortable, unsettling feeling. I have to race down to the bottom and do it all over again. And sometimes I would do these rituals that would take a half an hour and it was just very frustrating because I could never make sense of why. It was very irrational, and yet the feelings associated with OCD were so strong that I had to do these rituals. Otherwise, I felt like I was doing something totally wrong, and I couldn't move forward. So
how did that affect you? Do you think that affected?
Because I know that with addiction, for some reason my draw was the sexual addictions, and I think in some ways it fueled that obsessive compulsive disorder. Like it was an outlet for that because it was a real struggle, and I could not. It seemed like I couldn't get away from it, and for some reason, as I went, I ended up getting clear of that cycle for a while, the masturbation part. I went on a mission for my church. Service mission, and for 2 years, and then for 5 years after that, I never struggled or masturbated one time or anything like that. And then, so I had that 7-year gap, and then out of the blue, when I was up in college, the masturbation started again, and then slowly the pornography crept in with it, and it just became a vicious cycle from that point for about 8 or 9 years. And I do think that the OCD played a part in it because it was like, it was finally an outlet for that, just because I wasn't doing the ritualized turning lights on and off and climbing upstairs as much, although it still affected me. I could still feel the irrational thoughts and occasionally doing little rituals, but it wasn't dominating my life. And so the sexual addiction of pornography and stuff was allowing that OCD to take its place again, it seemed like.
So you're talking about the OCD and the masturbation and all of it kind of linked in. So, okay, probably a lot of people may have certain reasons why they start pornography or start masturbation, and there's I'm sure deeper rooted reasons, and we know there are of why people start doing that. And even if it's just as simple as wanting to have some self-pleasure, then that's why people start. So you have this, you started this, you did that, and then you go through this process of pornography, right? I really want to touch base, like we talked about before, so again, many people probably have this certain reasons why they start doing it, and not even knowing when they do it that it actually is even going to affect how they perceive women. So you went from this state of wanting to take care of a woman, wanting to be like a protector. I know you said even maybe in some kind of unrealistic ways. But at the same time, there was this desire, right? I remember you used to tell me, like, you'd plan dates, you'd plan romantic dates for, you'd actually put time and effort into it, and you would think about a woman's feelings if you were dating, and, you had certain things and qualities. I mean, can you remember those times, and can you kind of the distinctions of before pornography and how you were with women, and then after pornography, and how you handled?
It's all my past is all very vague now.
Nice try.
No, I do remember all that.
Because I think this is really key, Brian. I really do. I think this alone could maybe help people, men and women, to maybe think twice about looking at pornography or interacting with pornography. If they want to keep and hold solid to having a healthy perception and perspective on the opposite sex.
Yeah. Well, I will say that the pornography destroyed, or came pretty close to destroying, although deep inside of me my truest, my morals, my even through all the addiction, the strongest parts of it, there was still a part of me that I always knew right from wrong. I always knew that it was wrong. I always knew that it was affecting me negatively and affecting my entire life. And I always knew what my moral boundaries were, but I was refusing to choose them because the pull to the addiction was so strong. But I will say that, I was very much into that, just planning in the dating. When I was dating, I would plan out dates, creative dating. How could I make it special for the girl, whoever it was? Put time into it. And then pornography, what I learned is that one of the main things that pornography does is it destroys a man's view on women. And because it makes a woman, all it does is it tries to show that women are good for one thing, and that is their bodies, and that all the rest can go out the window. That women don't contribute socially, they don't contribute mentally, emotionally, and it takes that beautiful, union of sexuality that is meant. My belief is that it was meant for man and woman in marriage. It takes that beautiful thing and turns it into an ugly, kind of animal-like, what can I get out of this person? And it's only about me, me, me. And so it affected every aspect of my beliefs about women. So what I noticed over the years is that... Go ahead.
Well, let me just stop and ask you, did you even realize that it was happening? Did you have any clue after, looking at pornography for so many years, did you know that you were perceiving women differently than before? Even as you were like going on a date or you were doing whatever?
Yeah, times, yeah. I mean, I could look back and say and see a difference of how I was to how I'd become. In that, I wouldn't planning dates wasn't. I would just do more like quote unquote hangouts, and a lot of my desire was to really not to pursue someone to find out truly about them. Although that was in there on occasion, it definitely was there at times, and I definitely had these real feelings towards certain women that I wanted to pursue, but yet I was so, what I wanted and what I craved was just physical, whatever that was, and that was just, go on a date to.
Was that in are you saying that was like in the forefront of your mind? The physical.
Yeah, I mean, it was
the physical more in the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, a majority of times. Yeah, it was like kind of like, how can I hang out, quote unquote, hang out with this girl tonight so I can end up making out with her, or whatever. And so that was, and then I, and there were, like I said, there were times intermittently that I actually thought, wow, this particular girl, I want to pursue her for, different reasons, that I liked her personality or whatever it might be, and I had those. But the majority of those years when I was looking at pornography was the main focus was the physical, and that messed up everything, because as soon as I'd get close, as soon as I'd see that there was a little bit of a relationship involved, like the girl wanted to actually date me because she liked who I was or whatever, I would automatically get very what's the word, disgruntled inside, or like freak out, thinking, oh no, because it wasn't what I was truly intending with that girl. I just was focused more on the physical, and so when there was more of a depth to it, my mind would create all these crazy things like, this is not right, I can't pursue this, and just some of it's wacky, and I would just immediately, like, throw in the towel and be like, try and find a way out.
So in this process that you were going through, would you say that you became more self-absorbed in opposed to selfless, or really thinking about the woman's feelings?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Very self-absorbed. And that has poured into our marriage. As the first couple of years of our marriage were terrible. Like, it's very hard for me to reach outside myself, and as you will attest to, and be nice if you speak about this.
Babe, this is real talk. I get to say whatever I want.
Oh, great. I'm on the wrong program. Sorry, guys. Whatever she says, be quiet and listen. And I've noticed a change as we're not at this point yet, but in the conversation, but getting away from this addiction and having, progress, that those types of real feelings do start to come back. And obviously within all the addiction, there underneath all the cravings for just the physical, there is still that sense of, wow, this particular person has this quality that I like, and wow, this girl is beautiful in this way, and she's talented in this way. Those are still apparent, but what happens is the craving for the physical is so strong that it drowns everything else out. And so I noticed that the physical would drown out all the other parts of a girl, and you have suffered from this as well in our marriage, because the physical craving is so strong that the other things are secondary, and at times in pornography those things absolutely don't matter. It's just the physical. So what I mean is it overshadows and overpowers everything else, and it really throws everything completely out of whack, and makes it very difficult for a man
right.
settle down and want a relationship for the right reasons. And it's kind of
how about?
Sorry.
Well, no, I think it'd be interesting to even see the difference of, okay, so say before pornography, and even since you've been in recovery of pornography, what are those things that you know and feel that you want to be as a man for a woman and to a woman? So this is before pornography, what you've been taught,
okay,
like that deeper part of you, and then after in the recovery, because I know that you've learned a lot since then. So what are those things that you deeply desire and to be to a woman, and how do you want to treat a woman? And then I would love to know, like, the difference, like that other, like what, like those specific things that you, when you were doing pornography, when you're in that state of lust and pornography, where do you go? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, what? Yeah. So, like, what are those deeper desires inside of you as a man when you're in a healthy state?
Yeah. Well, I actually shared with someone else a comment that you made when you went to that one fireside, you call it, for church, and where that the man speaking said, he looked at all the men in the room and said, I want you to look at all of the women around here, and you guys are in charge of, I want you all to know that you're, I don't know his exact wording, but you're in charge of taking care of every one of these women and helping them whatever they need. And so truly what I think that God, my deepest part of me, what he wants me to be and what I truly want to be, is to be the type of man that looks at, it doesn't matter who the woman is, but just to look at her and know, just because she's a woman, that I would want to reach out and be there for her and take care of her and whatever needs she needs, whatever, her struggles, whether they be financial or emotional or whatever, and obviously within bounds, that are appropriate for a married man. I mean, but
right.
but there is this real feeling of it. It's not. There's no, there's that just genuine feeling of just women are amazing and powerful and strong, and yet we as men can do a lot to help them see that. I can personally do a lot of damage, and I have done a lot of damage when I have seen a woman as less than or not equal to and I've done that a lot in my life, especially through the pornography years. And so that's the deepest part of me. That's what I truly want to be, and I've always truly wanted to be that. And the addiction to pornography really drowned that part of me out, and I've had to work really hard to start getting that back and have that be back to the forefront of who I am instead of in the.
Well, so actually it'd be cool. I was just thinking, why not what even goes on in our marriage? Because I think we've seen it now over the years, being together over 6 years. What happens, like what is the difference of when you're in that state of, when we talk about lust, or you get into this state of really self-loathing, and all of that. What does that do to you? How do you feel about me at that point? Like what are some of the emotions that start showing up, and how do you react or act around me?
In that,
when you're in that, and again, I'm using that as a guide because that also is what happens, when before marriage, when you were dating too. I know.
Right. Well, I'm feeling that self-loathing or insecurity or inability to provide or whatever it might be for my family. And this used to be pretty frequent and pretty. A majority of the time with us when we got married was that there would be a lot of jealousy. And that would be for anything. Like I'd be afraid of you're going to find someone else or that I'm not good enough, and so obviously you must be pretending that you really love me or want me. I would be insecure about anything that you would be moving forward in. It's almost like, no, I'm the man, so I'm going to provide all the money. If you start working for money, I start getting angry and just kind of like my position or my abilities are being taken away because you are improving yourself. And if you've noticed that over time that that self-loathing causes so much irrational thinking and so many irrational feelings that at the time feel very real and very justified. I think that has been developed deep within me over time because, like I said, pornography is such a powerful thing that it like we've learned, and they've done scientific studies that it hits on every like all addictions hit on a certain type of brain pleasure or a center in the brain where it just has a powerful good feeling effect, and pornography hits on all of those. And so you take that those great feelings, quote unquote great feelings that happen during pornography, and that rush and that excitement and that thrill, and then all of a sudden it makes it in your mind starts believing that it's a good thing. And so all those feelings of a woman only being good for her body and only being used for that, those at the time, probably in your brain's being trained to think that's real and that's true. And it's such a powerful thing. And that's why it's so difficult to overcome that. Because then I've had to, over this recovery process, I've had to bring my brain back down to reality that life is this way and this way, and the positive and negative things are part of life. But just to put back into perspective who a woman is and what and what she's all about, and it's way more than just this physical body.
And how hard has it been for you to come back from that space? I've been watching it, and we live in it every day, so I'm very aware of it, and I have my own stuff that I'm working through. But how hard is it
Mm-hmm.
for you to stand strong in who you are and to be able to just see me for who I really am, those good qualities, and to see my talents and to see my virtue and see the goodness that I am. I mean, even on a scale from 1 to 10, when you think about that over the last couple of years, how hard has that been for you to really just step into that on a consistent basis?
Well, the interesting thing is how hard is it for, let's see, I was thinking when we were dating, when I first got to know you, I realized, is everyone enjoying, by the way, this, our dating story I'm about to tell you?
We'll see if anybody listens, but.
Yeah. So I knew right away, like when we'd talk on the phone the first time before we actually met, and when we met, there were things about you that totally stood out that had not hit me in a certain way that I could remember with any other woman. And I think there was this crazy fear inside me that because I knew that you were someone different and someone that it almost felt like when I met you and this was for real, this relationship. And so my other relationships, a lot of them through the pornography, had been facade-based, and I was able to escape out of them easily. And that's what I would do. When it get a little bit serious, I would escape. And I would, some of them were hard to do that, but that would be my tendency. And so when I still had that desire.
I was like glue, babe. I wouldn't get off. I was like
my gosh,
those pieces of gum, the chewing gum that wouldn't get off
Holy
your shoe.
cow.
I wasn't going anywhere.
Gorilla glue.
Gorilla glue.
Well, and we both saw that in each other. We both saw that in each other, and so that's why there was a time when we broke up for a while that I could not get my mind off of you. Like everyone else that I'd ever dated, I could get over after a certain period of time and not really have too much attachment to that. But this one in particular with you, it was just like I couldn't shake you. But yet it was this battle inside, and it was a real battle because it was there was the strongest, and I remember, and it makes a whole lot of sense to me why I was so mean to you so much of the time, is because no other person in my life was willing, or you were the first person outside of maybe my ecclesiastical leaders that knew that I had a pornography addiction. And you were the one that you were not willing to let me, because you saw me for who I was.
Well, I wouldn't let you live in it.
Right, you wouldn't let me live in it. Yeah. And so I carried around this very real, and my mind would create these irrational things about you because I knew, and I didn't know at the time, but now when I look back, I realized that I knew inside that you were the one that was going to pull me out of pornography or help me get out of that, and you wouldn't settle with it, and yet I didn't want to leave you deep inside because I knew there was something different about you, but I resented you a lot because you were the one taking me out of this addiction that I had grown to quote unquote love for 9 years. And
I think I want to clarify too. Well, I want to clarify too that I know it wasn't just that I was taking you out of it. It was that I feel that, and I think this is key, especially for women, is that we know a lot of times who a man is. Like I knew who you were. Mm-hmm. I saw who you truly were, and you weren't. And I was in shock of how you were living. I was in shock of what the potential. And again, we talk about potential, and they say you don't want to live on potential alone. But I mean, I was just. Mm-hmm. It was so shocking to me the different person that you were exposing everyone to and living like, and all the torture you were going through inside, and then knowing full well who you really were, like 100%.
Right.
That's what, I mean, to me, that's what I was I couldn't, I mean, obviously we broke up and stuff. I broke up with you kind of in that way, but I guess I just want to clarify that. But I mean, I want to clarify that because I think it's not like I wanted to fix you. It's just I knew who you were. And you had to face who you were when you were with me.
Right.
And that was hard for you because that
right.
meant, well, shoot, that means I really am better than, I can't be this this selfish, big loser man. It's not who I am.
Yeah, with all the other girls that I had dated or hung out with, whatever you call it, I knew that I could get away with still being who I was because I never let anyone in and to know what was going on, and you could sense it right away. And so with you, I knew that, like you said, I had to live to a higher standard, and yet I wanted to be with you deep inside, but yet there was the strongest pull for the pornography still, that it created a lot of anger, a lot of these resentful feelings that you had to bear with and suffer through.
Well,
and I'm apologizing on radio and whatnot there.
Well, I think too, Brian, I think that's important for this is that a lot of women, and I mean, we know just from working on recovery and then working personally with people, that this is what a lot of families and a lot of couples are going through right now. I mean, we're talking about cycles and things that go on, these anger cycles and these blame cycles, and being hurt and in pain for the woman, and then blaming her husband and knowing who he is, and him not wanting to face who she really is. And I mean, all this stuff is stuff that what we found over the years, and I know from my previous experience, this is very common. And and so how do people, again, it's a journey, right? But that's why I thought it was so important to know that there's so much to it of what porn can do. It's almost like this outlet that perpetuates low self-worth, and it also perpetuates anger and blame and hatred and degrading things towards men and women. So it's like this, it really brings people to the lowest level that they never even imagined they would have gone. And again, it's almost like this sneaky thing that happens. You don't even realize it's happening to you, because I know you didn't know that this was all happening to you until now that you've been married and you're seeing the remnants and how you're having to clean up so much in your relationship with me. But I'm just a woman. Like, you just look at me as a woman, not necessarily your wife, but just how you're having to clean up your relationship with women through our marriage, right?
Right.
I think a lot of men are having to do that, and a lot of women are having to understand what that looks like and feels like.
Yeah. It's a huge, I mean, there are so many men that, and there are a lot of women too, but there are so many men that are immersed in pornography and addicted to it. And I, just from personal experience, I know that it deeply infiltrated every part of my life. Like it made it hard. It makes it very difficult to focus on work, to focus on earning money, because all you want really is just, when can I look at pornography next? Or, you get angry at work and all of a sudden you have this craving to go look at pornography, and it really takes away from, why would I want a family, or why would I want it? It takes away from all the desires to, have a family life, because you're getting I was getting my fix on the pornography, and it's just like it takes away all those values are not seen in that, the value of family, the value of hard work, the value of, providing and treating women the way that they should be treated. And it's totally a powerful effect, and it is difficult to overcome.
Well, and what we've noticed and what we've seen with others too is that it really becomes, and what we've learned through so many wonderful therapists and different people that are studying this and working on this over the years, is that, like what you just said about getting angry or having some issues at work or having issues inside of yourself, instead of going to, it's just like any addiction, right? Instead of going to a healthy source, like for instance, coming to, like, going and talking to somebody about it, or going and, talking to your wife, or a person going and talking to their wife, or going for a jog, or, saying a prayer, doing something that would be more uplifting, there's an automatic response of that hit of endorphins that people have gotten in such a habit of getting through pornography. You go to pornography, and that's automatic, when you're upset. And so, again, that's something I don't know if people really understand. I think it's happening. It happens so submersive. It's such a submersive thing and subconscious thing that starts happening.
Yeah, I know. I think there's a lot of there's still a lot of people that don't understand even the difference between love and lust. And lust is the counterfeit to love. And when things are done out of love, and I'm talking about life in general. For example, just love of life. It's like love for nature, for example. Like I've always been very drawn towards nature, and I've just loved being out there, and it's very fulfilling for me. Pornography, during my years of strong pornography, that desire for that nature kind of diminished, and it wasn't as fulfilling anymore. And because those endorphins I was getting during the pornography were so strong that it kind of drowned everything else out, and all the things that are true and deep didn't have that same effect anymore. And so it's getting back to what's real and what's true, and allowing those things to place in my life again, and to create those endorphins. But yet the interesting thing is, it is crazy how deceiving pornography is, because on the one hand, that rush and that intensity before, like the build up to watching pornography, that craving that just overtakes everything, it seems like it's going to be the most amazing thing, and during the experience, it is a powerful experience, and there are some crazy endorphins that are going off, and it is in that moment just powerful and desirable. But yet it always, always, always leaves me, as I've noticed in my life, it just left me empty, hating myself, just like totally just in disgust, and it never ended well. And what I'm learning is that even in marriage, like the things that are created in a marriage out of love, there's no comparison to that feeling and the fulfillment that gives than the opposite of what lust creates. And so that's what I'm relearning in my life, is how to allow the real, true things of life give me the pleasure that are actually fulfilling and lasting, and the other stuff just leaves you empty. And
so on an ending note, because we only have another 2 minutes, so I am just curious, really fast, because this was about how you perceive women and what is a healthy perception. So I would love to know, on an end note, what are maybe 3 things that you feel are truly why women are gifts to this world, to you, to men. Real quick, we have a minute.
Okay. First, I think, or I know, and I've seen this in you so strong, but women in general are very, they see things for really who they are or what they are, if that makes sense. It's have this very keen perception of what's real. And so, for example, as seeing that I was better than the lifestyle I was living, you saw through all of the garbage and all of the facade and all of the anger and the things that I was carrying on. You saw the true deep me. That is a true gift that women have, I've noticed.
Give me one more, because then we have to get off.
And also forgiveness. To forgive and yeah.
I like that one.
I mean, all the men, myself included, and so many men I've talked to and stories I've heard, women are constantly forgiving their husbands, even though there are, obviously there's anger and there's things that there's carried around. There's this amazing cycle of forgiveness that women have towards men that are not treating them right, and they'll stay with them for years and years and years and give them every opportunity to correct, because women truly love deeply from the start.
Yes, we do, babe. We love deeply,
yes,
and
you do.
I'm so grateful. I know, I'm grateful you're on here, and we're going to close, but we'll have to talk to you again, because I want to hear more and more about, you're in your recovery, and you have a lot of experiences that have been happening, and I think that you are a goldmine of information